So there was in fact reason why I said the very thing of which I said about the child's book bag. Some people get offended when you call out certain things, and yet to take the chance, as in being willing to take a chance and saying what you see, is to call things out. So when I stood and questioned if her book bag was in fact wet or showed any type of detail of, and say it could have been wet before police had found it, when I had questioned that, it was in relation to the witnesses, the eyewitnesses. Because see, to be an eyewitness and see something as in it being really there is to in fact show like evidence in a sense. And to show evidence is to actually pinpoint that very thing, right? To stand and question of something, if say an eyewitness in fact seen what they actually said that they had seen, is to call that very thing out. And the only thing which is to be called out is in fact the child's book bag. So once again, I said it before and I'm asking again, when police found her bag, was there in fact evidence as in detail to show that the book bag had in fact been wet? Because in order to walk in rain like that, as in a downpour, torrential rain or whatever you want to call it, to be completely drenched and say some wet matter like that is for that very thing to show an evidence as in detail. Police finding a bag wrapped inside 2 garbage bags. And I'm repeating the same thing because, as I said before, when you take it upon yourself and mention certain things or call certain things out on video, some people get offended, and it's kind of like, oh well, you just, if you really say that you're trying to get involved as in help in written form or on camera, then you're going to say some things that could in fact infuriate other people. And yet that's not the sole intention. Me doing any of these videos, that's not the sole intention. Just to say stand and be calling people out randomly. It's to try to figure as in gather to try to see what in fact could have happened, even in the realm of eyewitnesses. Because sometimes people can say that they seen somebody or seen a situation that took place, and yet in fact they might have not even seen anything at all. That's what I'm trying to say. And so if once again police never released a video, if police never released the information of, say, well, that would still be video because that would be in fact the news. But if police never released the information as in very descriptive form or even descriptive format of, say, the bag even being drenched, if that sort of thing never met police eyes as in detail showing them after they found the bag that the bag was in fact drenched, then that's to know in fact that the eyewitnesses might not have seen what they thought they seen. That's just common sense. If somebody was not there with a bag in which it's been told that they were seen with a bag, and yet the bag was not drenched in the evidence, of course it's not going to be drenched then, because for a bag to sit for a whole year outdoors is to know that heat could in fact played a part in drying the bag out somewhat, even wrapped in garbage bags. But as I said before, even if her book bag was tightly wrapped in 2 bags, then mold could have in fact played a part even in that. Because to wrap any type of material in a garbage bag is to know in fact mold could possibly be found from wet residue. And as I said before, to wrap a bag, a wet book bag inside of 2 garbage bags is to know in fact discoloration can also be found as well. So if police didn't see either or of those two details, then that's to say that her bag might have not in fact been in the rain, which shows that the eyewitnesses was not in fact seeing the very thing of which they thought they seen. To repeat is to know, is to find out, as in to gather, try to gain insight, answers, into putting pieces together. I have yet to see anybody make a video in question of this very thing, as I said before, what I'm questioning. Because once again, possibly they don't even know, because for police to not release records, as in the detail of the book bag, is to not to know. But then once again, in order to question is to try to add up, solve an equation, basically. So, could the eyewitnesses have in fact been there, or were they not? That's my all-time question, along with that book bag. Because see, even that book bag points to that, eyewitnesses. To stand outside or to drive outside in the middle of the night and say that you're seeing something that you may or may not seen is to know that even the book bag points and express to that very detail. And even the police and FBI knows that. To say you're seen and witnessed somebody on the side of a highway at 3 o'clock or even 4, going into 4 o'clock in the morning, is to say you could have in fact been there. But if the bag doesn't show that, as in expressing residue from, say, moisture, despite the clothes being wrapped up in plastic in the book bag, and despite the 2 garbage bags being on top of that bag, because for anybody, that's just common sense. For anybody to walk in the rain for that long period is to know the bag itself is going to be drenched. Even if no water particle got on the inside of the bag, that book bag itself is still going to be drenched, right? And yet to wrap a bag and say 2 garbage bags, the way in which that bag actually met those 2 garbage bags, it's to sit and stand and say that even the book bag that is in fact drenched, placed in 2 garbage bags, would in fact become drenched on the inside, yes, that book bag itself. Because to be contained by moisture in 2 bags, that's almost like Ziploc in itself. To be contained in that manner is to know that moisture has no choice but to seep in, even if that bag is in fact waterproof. It has no choice but to seep underneath it, despite it being contained by waterproof material. Any type of waterproof material that stands too long in moisture would in fact allow that moisture to seep through. It has no choice, because remember, it's contained by garbage bags. So, puzzle pieces as in a searching to finding out, questioning why, how, every abstraction to every single level. Yes, everything. Asking everything. So you can dissect. You could have information and yet not have enough information, and yet dissect individual pieces down, all the way down. Yes, you can. To the pristine level. People will understand and know. If you don't have enough evidence, you can possibly take it upon yourself and question down that very small piece of evidence until you get to it being almost minuscule. Is that even a word? Where something is large and you break it down, as in dissect it, till it's almost nothing left, and then upon you thinking that nothing left, a tiny piece can in fact be found as a missing link. I question the eyewitnesses over and over. My 2 main focuses, everybody else is focused on what happened. They're looking at the bigger picture, and yet to dissect the most smallest pieces is to try and find out. To say that there was eyewitnesses involved is to say what part did they play in all of this, in the game. I say game because in order for somebody, say, to possibly take somebody, make somebody run away, or whatever, be killed, whatever the situation that happened with this individual, is to in fact look at it for what it is. It's a game. Because if it wasn't a game, then the individuals who had done this would in fact confess and turn themselves in. And yet to say nothing at all is to as well say that some type of game is being played, like a mind game or something like that. Me myself, I understand mind games because of the very personality that I exhibit as within, something that I was born with, as in figuring out mysteries and puzzle pieces. That in fact is a mind game all its own, because to understand the process of the step by step, as in unraveling, that is in fact a game. Remember, we learn that sort of thing even in childhood ourselves, children. Even mathematics in a sense is its own form of game. Even sciences, figuring out that is a form of a game. So for somebody to play a sickly type of game, such as what that individual or whoever is playing, is to try to figure it out. It's a game. Got to look at the very thing. Because see, the reason why I keep saying that this whole matter is a game, with a young child to go missing at that age, and then for it to be reported and then played as in blasted all over the TV back when it happened, and yet no one take the time to say, you know what, I'm the one that did this, and you know, whatever, for them not to even turn themselves in, because it's a sick, to me it's just sick. So that's why I said, because to sit and watch something on TV as it's being reported years back, I myself was a child, I vaguely remember, because they didn't play it enough. I mean, the whole missing, it didn't play enough in my mind on TV. There was not enough TV spots, I feel, for this girl or whoever to be totally found, as in scoped out. But for somebody to go completely unfound and be possibly dead, is to know that a mind game can be actually involved in that. See what I'm saying? Because if an individual, I said this before in one of my other videos, if an individual is willing to do something like that, that's drastic in itself. If they're willing to do that, and then just what do they do? Do they in fact turn off the TV as it's being aired? What do sickly people like that do? I'm just in question. To take a child and do whatever with her, even possibly dismember her, because I just seen a story in relation to an individual that was in fact in a whole different, I think she was in Chicago. Was she in Chicago or Detroit? And they was trying to find out if she was into prostitution. She's in her early 20s. They was trying to figure out if she was into prostitution or anything else, and I was basically commenting on the video that she could have in fact either been in prostitution or drugs or both. Because for that type of thing, for this one particular individual, I can't remember her name, but I was watching the video, for her to become dismembered like that is to know she possibly could have been involved in some type of criminal activity, such as selling her body or a drug transaction go wrong. You know what I'm saying? Some of these Johns do certain things. Ain't that what they call them? People that pull up and get a woman to get in the car and do certain things sexually, and then yet want to keep her, and then when she don't want to be involved with that, they take the time to dismember her body because she said no, as in wanting to get away. So I'm just saying, all that is just sickly. It's completely sickly. But once again, to see the very detail of which it stands as trying to figure out the eyewitnesses. If you say you've seen somebody in that type of rain, knowing you're driving in a whether it was a tractor trailer truck, not tractor trailer, well, semi truck, whatever, because even them has CB radios enough to call other people. But to say that you seen a young child walking in that environment at that time of night, right? And then saying the eyewitnesses, and then other individuals in cars, and then to be circling around 3 times and make sure that that individual was a young child, it still put me in question about the bag. What type of, when I said in my last video of residue being shown, because see, even moisture itself has a tendency to, what's the word for it? When moisture seeps through a bag, if it could have seeped through her bag, then that paperwork, as in the information that was found inside that young girl's bag, that in itself would have been somewhat semi-drenched through the storm. As in the paperwork kind of like being wet, as in sticking together, right? Or you know how paperwork in fact gets wet, and then the information on it kind of like bleeds. Like say if it was either written in pen, or say, because sometimes when I think of like information that's written in blue or black pen, or even pencil, if it gets wet enough, sometimes it actually bleeds, the stuff that's written. So if she was in a storm like that, I'm imagining the information on that paperwork would have in fact bled a little bit, unless it was, say, wrapped in plastic with her clothes. And I even mentioned that much. To see and to know is to understand. But once again, police is not going to release that from their records as in the detail, and yet it's just a mystery. All of it stands as a complete mystery.